what else can I really say except what? What the hell did I just read? Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So earlier this year I made a video in which I read all of the books and short stories by Sally Rooney, and it was a really fun, interesting experience. Not something that I've ever really done before, just kind of binge an entire body of work by a single author in a space of a month. But yeah, I am now a Sally Rooney convert. I really enjoy her work, and I'm looking forward to reading Intermezzo when the paperback comes out. I'm pretty impatient. I have been tempted to get the hardback so many times, but I'm being firm with myself and just powering through the FOMO and hoping I don't get any significant spoilers before I get to read it. Leave your spoiler-free reviews of Intermezzo down in the comments below. Anyway, I thought I would do something similar with a different popular author, and depending on how this video goes, maybe make it into a bit of a series in the future on this channel. Just kind of reading popular authors to see what the hype is all about. But yeah, this time, if you haven't already guessed from the title, I am going to be reading the books of Eliza Clark, author of Boy Parts, author of Penance, and author of the very soon to be published She Is Always Hungry, her short story collection that comes out pretty soon. And I have already pre-ordered it, so it will be arriving at some point during the making of this video, and then I will be reading it. Watch me absolutely hate the first book that I read in this video and then immediately regret pre-ordering a book by the same author. It's fine. I'm actually really confident about this video. I think I'm gonna really enjoy Eliza Clark's books. Just from kind of reading reviews and the synopses of the books, they sound like something that I would enjoy. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading them. So without further ado, let's get started, and we're going to start off with the only book by Eliza Clark that I currently have in my possession. You can tell just how much I thought through and planned this video before I started filming, and that is Penance. I have Penance as an ebook, so I'm going to be bringing out the trusty Kindle. I say trusty Kindle, but it is actually a Kindle Paperwhite that's like 10 years old at least, and incredibly slow and could break at any moment. So it's not actually that trusty. If I'm gentle with it and I speak kindly and give it positive affirmations, then we'll have nothing to worry about. From what I understand, this book is quite dark and discusses true crime and the ethics of true crime and profiting off of other people's tragedies that really kind of have nothing to do with yourself. And also stuff like fandom and internet culture and the effects of the internet on young women and girls who can be quite impressionable and vulnerable. And as someone who very much grew up with the internet, and sites like Tumblr were quite formative for me in my teenage years, I think that aspect of the book is going to really interest me as well. So yeah, I'm gonna start reading and give you an update when I'm kind of part way through with some initial and ongoing thoughts. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. Hey, so I am about halfway through Penance by Eliza Clark, just under halfway through I think, and I'm enjoying it so far. It's definitely slow going. It's a bit of a slow burn book, I think, but it's still very interesting and very engaging. So basically what the book is about is it's this kind of fictionalized true crime book. It's kind of it's posing as like a non-fiction true crime book, but like the event itself and the author is fictional, and it's a book about this murder of a teenage girl in a town called Crow in Yorkshire, murder of a teenage girl by 3 of her classmates. And it's kind of a story within a story. So you firstly have this story of these 3 girls who committed the murder, and also the victim, and the author goes through like their upbringings and the events leading up to the actual event happening. But then you also have the story of like the author going and getting this information and doing all the interviews, and how he goes about like kind of interviewing all the people involved, like the family members, and also some of the now grown up teenage girls. And it really does make you think a lot about kind of the ethics of true crime, and how this author is kind of inserting his own narrative and objectives into his research. Like, he's very much not an impartial body in this. He's kind of using various tactics in order to get the information he wants and try and connect with the people involved, and he's very much inserting himself into the narrative. So the way the book is structured is it's kind of split into sections focusing on each of the 3 girls involved in the murder, girls A, B and C, although they have actual names in the book. And I'm part of the way through the girl B section at the moment, and I've been reading this book and I've been like, why do I relate to these girls so much? And also, is it bad that I relate to them so much knowing what they end up doing in the story? The book goes into like a lot of detail about them growing up and then being at school as a teenager and not really fitting in and not really kind of having a grasp of social skills, which I feel like a lot of teenage girls can relate to. It's like really difficult to exist as a functional social human being as a teenager. Like, for me personally, I look back on some of the stuff that I did as like a 13, 14-year-old girl, and I'm like, why would I even think to do that? Why would I behave in that way? That is so cringe. I don't know, I think it's a very kind of formative part of your life when you're kind of forming your own identity and values and beliefs and learning how to be like a person, an adult, before you like go off into the adult world. And at the same time, you're facing a lot of judgment from your peers, because teenage girls can be so judgmental. So yeah, anyone who like immediately doesn't fit in or kind of act normal, it can be really difficult for them. And at least for the 2 girls I've read about so far, like, they find a lot of refuge on the internet, especially on Tumblr. And you know, as a Tumblr girly myself, I can relate heavily to that. And also, I have seen the amount of toxic stuff that has happened on Tumblr throughout the years, throughout like over a decade. It's a weird place, and yeah, for impressionable teenage girls, I think it's quite easy to get dragged into that kind of toxic headspace. So yeah, needless to say, this book is hitting. Maybe hitting a little bit too hard. But yeah, I'm going to carry on with it, and here's hoping the second half is just as good as the first half. Oh, also, I managed to get my hands on a physical copy of Boy Parts by Eliza Clark yesterday. I just kind of found a cheap copy on a secondhand website, arrived yesterday, and I opened it up and immediately got absolutely jump scared by this. This is allegedly a signed copy. There's no kind of real way of verifying whether it's real, but I've compared it against like the one photo of Eliza Clark's signature that I managed to find on Google Images, and it looks pretty similar. So I'm gonna take this as a signed copy, which is pretty darn cool considering I got this for like £6 online. And I was very nearly gonna bite the bullet and just order a brand new copy from Waterstones, But I'm very glad I didn't, and it just goes to show that playing secondhand roulette can very much pay off sometimes. So yeah, that is my update, and I'm gonna go ahead and continue reading. Hello, we are back. I've just finished Penance by Eliza Clark. Ignore the state of my face. I went to a Halloween party last night. Won best dressed for my JoJo Siwa costume, but I feel like I've still got some kind of residue eyeliner around my face, so I've just spent like the whole day recovering from that and reading. So yeah, Penance. So the plot of the book is pretty much what I explained in the last update. Basically it's kind of a story within a story. You've got this murder that happened in a small seaside town in Yorkshire, where 3 schoolgirls tortured and then set on fire one of their classmates. And the book kind of goes through the events leading up to that, as well as kind of biographical details of each of the murderers' lives, as well as the victim, and what could have, led them to do such an awful thing. But then alongside all of that, you kind of get a sense of a different storyline, which is of the fictional author of the fictional non-fiction true crime book going and collecting information and researching pretty much everything that he can about the case and the people involved. And he employs various different tactics to do that. He goes and interviews people who are related to the people involved in the murder. He goes and researches the town itself, goes on like a walking tour to like the different sites that are involved in the murder. He researches like news articles and bits and pieces, and he even gets some like writing that some of the killers did after they've been put in prison, and some of those methods are not entirely ethical. He even goes so far as to like stalk and harass people who do not want to kind of be associated with the murder at all anymore. And we also find out that the book itself that he has written is not entirely accurate. He has taken a lot of the information that was given to him through interviews and stuff and used a lot of creative license to change things and potentially project some of his own feelings onto these very real people who committed the murder. And you start to wonder, where is the line between like a veritable true crime book that is engaging and interesting and what one of the murderers was writing, which is real person fiction about teenagers who kill people. And that could very well be what the author of this book has accidentally written, or even like written on purpose. We don't even know like his full true motives. It is just a very interesting exploration of the genre of true crime and the ethics of engaging in that genre as someone, a consumer who has like no real stake in the event, in the crime. Like, the author is very much profiting off of other people's suffering, and he is making all of these kind of different creative choices for the sake of like his art and also for making money, which isn't great. And the book also goes into like online spaces, especially Tumblr, which has some like dark communities. It's such kind of a unique website because there's like a real level of anonymity, which means you can kind of post whatever you want to post, and you know, the implications of that are that there is a lot of really dark content on there, and the younger users of that site, who are typically teenagers who are in real life quite lonely and vulnerable and seek refuge on that site, they can get kind of drawn into that kind of content and radicalized by it quite easily, which is what happens to these girls. Yeah, it was really interesting. I can kind of see how this book would be like the girls that get it, the girls that don't kind of book, because unless you are kind of chronically online, and unless you grew up using Tumblr and kind of know all the lore behind it, I can understand why the book might not hit the same, I guess. But yeah, for me, as someone who is pretty well versed in Tumblr lore, yeah, I got it. I thought it was really, really good, really interesting, dark and unsettling. Like, check trigger warnings, because as you might expect, it does get pretty heavy. But no, I enjoyed it, and yeah, it's only left me more excited to read more of Eliza Clark's stuff. So speaking of, I'm gonna get started on Boy Parts. Again, I am very intrigued about this. I think I know even less about this book than I did about Penance. Like, at least with Penance, I knew it kind of looked at true crime and stuff. I have no idea what this is about, only that it is a weird girl book, and I like weird girl books, so yeah. And also I got a email yesterday that my copy of She's Always Hungry has been dispatched, so I should get that within the next few days. So hopefully once I have finished this, I can move straight onto that, and it'll be nice and easy, and hopefully I won't get like completely burnt out from reading one author's entire body of work in one go, just like binging it. But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far, so yeah, I'm gonna keep going. I just finished reading Boy Parts, and what else can I really say except what? What the hell did I just read? This book follows Irina, who is a photographer in Newcastle, and she takes erotic photographs of men, and she has just been offered a showing at a gallery in London, quite a prestigious one. There would be like a lot of like rich buyers and stuff there, and so she's like going through all of her archives and stuff, looking for stuff to show at the exhibition, and going through all of those kind of archives. She's remembering kind of stories from her past and how she kind of developed her craft, and the various kind of characters she's met along the way, in terms of like models and also like artist acquaintances. But at the same time as this, she's also in the present going through a kind of self-destructive spiral, in which she is kind of pushing people away and damaging friendships, and she's kind of being consumed by guilt for something really bad that she has done in the past, that is revealed about 3/4 of the way through the book. Yeah, she's just generally not being a very nice person. Yeah, she's a pretty terrible person. She's a very unlikable protagonist. So if you like unlikable characters, unlikable protagonists, then you might enjoy this. As I said before I started reading this, I had no idea what I was getting into. I didn't really know what this book was about, other than that it was weird. And to be honest, it starts off like quite a normal book. yeah, it kind of reminded me a little bit of like Fleabag, I guess. But then it just took a turn. It gets quite dark quite quickly, pretty weird. It kind of chronicles Irina's descent into madness, just through kind of her looking back over her memories and also feeling a lot of guilt over this thing that she did, and also like realizing that she has free will and she can do pretty much whatever she wants, and she does do whatever she wants, and it's just kind of seeing how far she can take it before someone actually like calls her out and she faces like severe consequences for it. And the thing is, she can go pretty far. It was a wild ride. It was an experience reading this. I wasn't a fan of how the book ended. I thought it was quite abrupt, and after learning that this was originally a short story, I can kind of see that like short stories do tend to have quite abrupt endings. They don't have the typical like beginning, middle, and end that one would find in a novel. They just tend to be kind of snapshots, little vignettes, and yeah, I guess this is kind of an extended version of that, I guess. So yeah, how does this compare to Penance? I don't think I enjoyed this quite as much as Penance. It's still like it's giving the same kind of vibes. I think Eliza Clark does do unsettling very well. Like both books so far have been pretty unsettling and dark and kind of gross. So yeah, so far my rating is Penance, and then just slightly under that, Boy Parts. We will see where She's Always Hungry fits into that kind of ranking. My copy hasn't arrived yet, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to read something completely different now. Give myself a little bit of a palate cleanser before I go into the next book, just so that I am fully refreshed and ready for even more weirdness that is about to follow. So I will check back in later when I have got my copy. Looking forward to it. Hello, we're back. It's been a couple of days. I went away, and while I was waiting for my copy of She's Always Hungry to arrive, I read Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis, which was one of the books I wanted to read this year. It was on my list of like 24 books in 2024, so glad I got that out of the way. I thought it was really good. I thought it was a good idea to kind of go away and read something different, and read that book especially. As like a little bit of a palate cleanser from all of the kind of unsettling, disturbing stuff that I have been reading recently, and B, I think it was actually exactly the book I needed to read, given everything that has been going on in the news over the past few days. Things aren't looking great. But yeah, reading a book about a woman who defies an incredibly sexist society, yeah, I think it definitely lifted my spirits a bit. But yeah, I now have a copy of She's Always Hungry, so I'm gonna get started reading it. It's not actually very long, so I don't think it'll take me very long, so I'm sure I will get back to you pretty soon with my thoughts. Hello, I finished reading She's Always Hungry by Eliza Clark last night, her new short story collection. Did not take me very long. It literally took me a couple of sittings to get through it, because it's not a very long book, and also it was really, really entertaining. I have to say, A few of the stories in this collection are some of the best short stories I have ever read. Honestly, they were so good. Eliza Clark does a really good job of like creating an entire world or even an entire universe. There are a couple of stories in here that have like a sci-fi element with like space travel and stuff, and she can do all of this like massive world building and stuff in such a short number of pages. It's honestly very impressive. The stories are all kind of unsettling. They all kind of have this rather disturbing vibe, but they range in kind of levels of that, from more kind of just generally a little bit weird vibes, something not quite right going on but still like fairly realistic, all the way up to like true proper horror with like body horror and gore and stuff like that. So yeah, the range and the variety with these stories was also very impressive. I think that there were maybe one or two stories that maybe weren't as good as some of the other ones, and maybe fell a little bit flat compared to the rest of them, but like that is just because some of them were so incredible, like some of the best short stories I've read. So I wouldn't go as far to say like there are any skips in this collection. I don't think there were any like outright flops. There are no skips in this album, and yeah, I would definitely recommend it. I think there's definitely something in this collection for everyone, regardless of like which of her two other books you have preferred. Like if you enjoyed Penance for like that kind of chronically online unsettling stuff, there are stories in there that fit that. And then if you enjoyed Boy Parts more and like the whole kind of women's wrongs vibe and like the more kind of psychological horror stuff, then there's definitely a lot in there that you would enjoy as well. And then also if you are a fan of like even more kind of gruesome horror, then you know she's dipped her toes into that as well. So yeah, it's really good. So yeah, that's it. I have now read all of Eliza Clark's books that she has published. Safe to say I am very much a fan now, and I'm looking forward to whatever she puts out next. To give kind of a ranking of the books, I think it would go maybe Boy Parts, then Penance, and then slipping just slightly above that, She's Always Hungry. I thought it was such a strong collection of stories. Definitely. And some of them will like stick with me for a really long time. I will be waiting impatiently with bated breath for whatever she puts out next. I'm definitely a fan now. I see the hype, I understand the hype. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please leave it a like and consider subscribing to my channel. If you have read anything by Eliza Clark, tell me your thoughts. If you've read all of her books, let me know what your favourite was, and also let me know like what authors I should read next, if I decide to kind of continue this little kind of series of reading books by different authors. Yeah, it's been a success so far, definitely. It's been, you know, 2 for 2. So yeah, I definitely kind of consider continuing it. If there are any authors you want me to try out, let me know. And yeah, you can also find me on TikTok, Instagram, Storygraph. My username is @WeightLiveJones for even more content. And yeah, thanks again for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.